They've run out of ideas. Their moment came and went. Fear and division is all they've got left. With all their attack ads, the president is just throwing away money. And he's pretty experienced at that.
Well, that was, of course, Republican vice presidential candidate Paul Ryan making the case for himself and for Mitt Romney against President Obama. David Marin of the Podesta Group, which is a bipartisan government relations firm, also does public relations, joins me now with more, and he was in Tampa. David, you say that Paul Ryan did what he needed to do. He fired up the base, but was it enough for the swing voters?
Well, I think that's the question that Governor Romney is going to have to help answer tonight. He's going to need to connect with a diverse audience, including the independents who will ultimately determine the outcome in November.
That's absolutely his task tonight. So is he up to it? What does he have to do?
I think the question for Governor Romney tonight is, can he live up to the portrait that his wife so eloquently and warmly painted of him on Tuesday night? I think that, there is a perception that remains out there that he can come across as wooden and a little bit out of touch. He needs to be more than a businessman tonight. He needs to be the fine man that Congressman Ryan described last night. And certainly some specificity on his proposals would help a long way.
Well, what would that be, though, David? You hear this all the time. You hear that Governor Romney has to connect to the voters, that he has to look more human, less wooden. But if you were advising him, what exactly does that mean he has to convey tonight in his speech?
I think he needs to show some warmth. I think he needs to be personable. I think he, at the same time, needs to remain strong and serious. This is a serious moment in the country's history. And to some extent, I think voters are going to be willing to overlook the lack of personable qualities to the governor, and the country's ready for some wonkish, even nerdy leadership at this point in time.
Wonkish and nerdy. Well, the reason why it is so important in many ways, right, David, that he has to look more personal, has to look more real. The portrait, as you say, that his wife put for him earlier this week, is that he has to close this woman gap with President Obama. President Obama is leading him among female voters. So what would he need to do other than trying to look more, less wooden and more human? What does he need to do to appeal to the woman voter?
I think it's really a matter of specificity at this point in time. I think, look, millions of Americans are out of work, incomes are declining, and while the ticket is smartly acknowledging that President Obama wasn't dealt the best economic hand, the fact is we're 4 years in, and a majority of voters aren't convinced that the administration has played that hand all that well. So if Governor Romney tonight can add some meat to the bones in terms of what he means by tax fairness, what he means by regulatory relief, those are family issues, and that'll be the key to getting women voters as well as all voters.
But David, is it really going to be about running on an anti-Obama campaign? It's got to be more than that.
Yes. I think the key is now moving beyond just a plain criticism of the last 4 years and beginning to fuel some optimism. I think if the governor can come forward tonight with a coherent and compelling plan for how he would spur economic growth, then he'll be headed in the right direction. Remember, even if we can increase 1% GDP over the next year, that means $3 trillion in additional revenue for the government over the next decade, and that can solve a lot of the fiscal problems that we're facing right now.
Well, and that's exactly what you say, David, is that there needs to be some sort of more specificity and more details on what the growth policies are coming out from Romney and Ryan.
I think that's right, and I think that'll go a long way toward assuaging the business community as well. After all, what businesses around the country want is more transparency, more predictability, and I think that's what the governor needs to put on the table tonight.
David, thank you very much. I really appreciate you joining me. David Marin.